Hello everybody, this video is about the introduction to polynomial functions. At the end of this lesson, you'd be able to properly identify polynomial functions, correctly evaluate a polynomial function at the specified value of the variable, and correctly find the domain and range of a polynomial function. Now, what is a polynomial function? A polynomial function is a function that can be written in the form p of x equals a sub n x raised to n plus a sub n minus 1 x raised to n minus 1 plus dot 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 plus a sub 1x plus a sub o, where n is the highest exponent of the variable. N here is the highest exponent of the variable and is a non-negative integer. Take note of the word non-negative integer, meaning hindi siya pwedeng mag-negative, hindi siya pwedeng decimals, hindi siya pwedeng fractions. Integer. Okay, non-negative integer, known as the degree of the polynomial. And a sub n minus 1, dot 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 a sub 0, those are the coefficients of the variable. So they stand for a numerical value, okay, numerical coefficient. These are real numbers. So, a sub n minus 1 hanggang a sub 1 hanggang a sub o, those are real numbers. Okay? Unlike the exponents should be non-negative integers. Okay? The term a sub n x to the power of n, where a sub n is the leading coefficient, kung ano man yung coefficient ng x sub n, yun ang tinatawag nating leading coefficient. Okay, leading coefficient. At itong buong a sub n, x raised to n, that's the first one here, okay? The variable that contains the highest exponent, kasama yung coefficient niya, that is called the leading term. Okay, the leading term. And yung a sub n, yung tinatawag na leading coefficient. Okay? Yung a sub o naman, that's the last one here. Okay? A sub o is the term without or with no variable. We call that the constant term. Okay? Constant term. Example, in the polynomial function p of x equals x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x minus 5, the leading term is x cubed. This is the leading term. The leading coefficient is 1. We don't see a number here. However, if this is the case, then the coefficient of the variable is 1. Okay? So, since the coefficient of x cubed is 1, then we call that as the leading coefficient. Leading coefficient. And the constant term is negative 5. The constant term is negative 5. Again, yung constant term, yun ang term na walang kasamang variable. The table below shows some examples of polynomial function and their degrees. Okay? So, we can classify polynomial functions based on its degree. We have p of x equals 6. Eto, we have here a constant term lang, walang variable. So, we call that function as a constant function. A constant function. Next, we have p of x equals 6x minus 9. So, we have here the degree. The degree is 1. Bakit? Kasi yung highest exponent ng variable, we only have one variable here and that's x, diba? So, the exponent of x here is 1. Okay? The degree is 1 and we call that as a linear function. Linear function. p of x equals x squared minus 5x plus 1. Ito naman, the degree is 2. We have two variable x dito. Merong dalawang terms na may variable. The degree of x here is 2. The exponent of x is 2. The exponent of x here is 1. And so the highest exponent is 2. So the degree of this polynomial is 2. So the degree is 2 and we call that quadratic function. Okay? Quadratic function. If the highest exponent of the variable in the polynomial is 2, we call that quadratic function. Now, if the degree is 3, highest exponent ng variable ay 3, then we call that cubic function. Kahit na ilang terms yan, kahit na ilang terms pa yan. As long as the degree is 3, then that's a cubic function. Here, the degree is 4. The highest exponent is 4. Okay? Kahit na ilang terms pa, dito we have 4 terms as well, ano? Kahit na wala itong dalawa, or kahit na 2 terms lang, as long as the highest exponent is 4, then the degree is 4. And so, that is a quartic function. Quartic function. Yung 2 ang degree, we call that quadratic. Yung 4 ang degree, we call that quartic. If the degree is 5, just like this one, then we call that quintic function. Quintic. The degree is 6. We have p of x equals x raised to 6. So the degree is 6. We call that a polynomial function of degree 6. If the degree is 7, a polynomial function of degree 7. And so on. Okay? So the general classification for that is, according to the degree, a polynomial function of degree, and then the degree. So, a 7th degree polynomial, so a polynomial function of degree 7. A 10th degree polynomial, a polynomial function of degree 10. Okay? Now, the standard form of a polynomial function is written in descending powers. Descending powers. Ibig sabihin, yung first term dapat, it contains the highest exponent. Okay? Or that, yung first term dapat should be the leading term. And pababa yung powers. Okay? So, the standard form of the polynomial function p of x, 9 minus x cubed plus 7x squared plus 11x is p of x equals, eto, ang leading term natin is negative x cubed, di ba? And then, sunod sa kanya si 7x squared. Okay? And then, we have 11x, and dito na siya. And then, we have the constant term. Ayan. Okay, so this form is already in the standard form. The domain of a polynomial function. When we say the domain, these are the set of admissible x values of a polynomial functions. Okay? So, remember this, x values of the polynomial function. The domain of any polynomial function is the set of real numbers. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng values ng x of a polynomial function is the set of all real numbers. So, kahit na anong numbers, pwede siyang decimals, pwedeng fractions, pwedeng rational, irrational numbers, pwede. Okay? Example, the domain of the polynomial function y equals 2x plus 1 and y equals negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 7 is the set of real numbers. Ito, it's dalawang examples ito ha. First one, we have here y equals 2x plus 1. Or we can also say this as p of x equals 2x plus 1. So, ayan. The set or the domain of this polynomial function is the set of all real numbers. Ito din, the domain of this polynomial function is also the set of real numbers. Kasi, ang sabi, the domain of any polynomial function is the set of real numbers. Right? So, in notation, in set notation, we can denote that as D for the domain equals x such that x is an element of real numbers. Or in interval notation, when we say interval, gumagamit tayo ng parenthesis at saka ng bracket. Okay? So, infinity. So, kasi lahat. So, the domain is the set is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay? Ibig sabihin, it doesn't end. Okay? Walang ending. So, ang domain niya, lahat ng real numbers. The range of a polynomial function. Now, if the domain is the set of all admissible x values, the range naman, range, is the set of the admissible y values of the polynomial function. While the domain of any polynomial function is the set of real numbers, di ba sabi, kahit na anong polynomial function yan, yung domain niya ay set ng real numbers. The range, ang range niya, it depends on the degree and the sign of the leading coefficient. Okay? So, kapag ka-range ng polynomial function, we need to look at the degree of the polynomial and the sign of the leading coefficient. So, let's look at the degree first, the degree of the polynomial. Kapag ka-add, okay, add number ha, so 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So, if the degree of the polynomial function is odd, regardless of the sign, kahit na anong sign, kahit na anong sign ng leading coefficient, positive man yan or negative, yung range niya ay set of all real numbers. Okay? Set of real numbers yan. If the degree is even, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay? Ayan, even. Then we look at the sign of the leading coefficient if it's positive or negative. Okay? Dito na magiging importante ang sign. Alright? So, if the sign of the leading coefficient is positive, then the range is y is greater than or equal to the minimum value. Paano ba mag-solve ng minimum or maximum value? Okay, mamaya yan. So, again, ang tatandaan lang natin muna, kung even ang degree, then we look at the sign of the leading coefficient. If it's positive, then y is greater than or equal to the minimum value. Okay, minimum value. Then, yung negative ang leading coefficient, then y is less than or equal to the maximum value. Okay? Maximum value. Example. Let us find the range of y equals negative x cubed plus 8x plus 9 and y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3. So, let's take this one first. Okay, we'll look at the degree. Is it odd or even? It's odd. Meaning to say, ang range niya ay set of real numbers. Okay? Set of real numbers. Again, when the degree is odd, we don't have to check on the sign of the coefficient anymore. Okay? So, kung odd, automatic yan. It's the set of real numbers. In the set notation, so R equals, R for range. R equals y such that y is an element of real numbers. In interval notation naman, R equals from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, parenthesis yan ha, parenthesis. Now, let's take the second example. Y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3. Take note, the degree is even, so we need to look at the sign of the leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is 1. It's positive. So, therefore, it's a quadratic function, Quadratic function. So, if we are going to graph that sa grade 9 ninyo, this is the graph of quadratic function, Parabola. Parabola. It's positive right here, so it opens upward. So, since its leading coefficient is positive, its range is greater than or equal to the minimum value of y. Ibig sabihin, this is the minimum value of y. Okay? And so, the values of, or our range, the admissible values of y, magsa-start dito sa minimum value niya, pataas, greater than. Alright? Greater than. And so, we can solve for the minimum or maximum value by evaluating the polynomial function at x equals negative b over 2a. Ito ha, negative again, x equals negative b over 2a. Paano yan? So, again, we have, this is a, yung coefficient dito, a is 1, b is 2, and c is 3. Again, yung coefficients, we are looking at the coefficients. So, the value of our a is 1, the value of b is 2, and the value of c is 3. Now, in this formula or equation, we only need a and b. Our a is 1, b is 2. Okay? Right, so we are going to use this formula in order to solve for x. And then, when we have x, we are going to substitute the value of x to the x's that we have here in the original polynomial expression or a polynomial function. Okay? So, when we substitute this one, we are going to solve for the value of y. And so, when we find y, then that's the minimum or the maximum value of y. Okay? Okay, let's go ahead and try. So this is our formula x equals negative b over 2a. So we just need to substitute the values. Again, our a is 1, our b is 2. So that's negative 2 over 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so the answer is negative 1. So our x is negative 1. Next, we substitute this negative 1 to the x that we have here in the original polynomial function in order to solve for y. Okay? So that is negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. So this is positive 1 minus 2 and then plus 3. And so the value of y is 2. Meaning this is the minimum value. Bakit minimum value? Because we have here a positive, okay? Positive leading coefficient. Balikan natin yung chart, ha? Okay. So, even ang degree, positive ang coefficient. So, y is greater than or equal to minimum value of y. Okay? And so, that is y, the range is y such that y is greater than or equal to 2. Okay? Saan galing ang 2? Of course, dito sa value ng y. So, this is using the set notation. You can also have r equals y such that y. Kapag ka set notation, kailangan natin yung braces. Okay? Naka-braces yan. But in the interval notation, we make use of parentheses or bracket. So, in this case, kasi yung y natin is greater than or equal to 2, meaning si 2, kasali si 2 kasi may equal. So, bracket yan. And then, comma. And then, positive infinity. Okay? And then, kapag ka-infinity naman, parentheses yan. Okay? Positive infinity. So, that's in the interval notation.